Hello and welcome to Restore 2023. This is an opportunity for us to be reading God's Word together, to be growing in an understanding of who He is and to be living for Him. Today, in our readings as a church, we are in the book of Daniel. And we know because just previously, before we've just read from Thessalonians, we were in the book of Ezekiel and Jeremiah, where the people of God were in exile. So Daniel is part of the exile community. He was exiled in 605, in the fourth year of King Jehoiakim, and he was part of a cohort where actually there were some important citizens, but also craftsmen. We see this from Jeremiah 25 and 46. The way that Daniel picks on this, or the book of Daniel speaks of this, it talks about the third year of the king Jehoiakim, or Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came to Jerusalem and besieged it. Verse 1. It appears that this manner of reckoning is based on the Babylonian calendar system rather than the Palestinian one, according to which the first year began with the new year, actually. But we know that where the people of God were was quite tragic, and the way that they've been in exile was quite tragic, because actually the king was taken captive, the articles from the temple were stolen, and prominent citizens and people, families taken into captivity. And again, Daniel is in the beginning of the exile of Judah, and all the prophets have been prophesying about this: Isaiah, Micah, Zephaniah, and Habakkuk. And we know why they were in exile, because they've rejected God, they've rejected the covenants, and God is disciplining, God is punishing the children because of their rebellion towards Him. Now, Daniel is part of the first exile. The second exile, as we know, happened with Ezekiel and King Jehoiakim. And then later on, we've got the third exile in 586, where Jerusalem was destroyed, and so was the temple. Now, we've got Daniel here with his friends, and they've been captured. They've been taken to live in Babylon. They're being educated there. And what happens here, what we see from the beginning, is that there is this refusal to compromise their Jewish faith. And over we see in the beginning of the book how God provides, how God protects, how God sustains Daniel and his friends. And some of the situations are really desperate, but God really blesses and protects them. And it's interesting also to see a little bit like Joseph, that Daniel is put into a very prominent position in a foreign country. The book is a mix of history and visions and dreams, and the second part of the book describes Daniel's visions, but they have to do with the rise and fall of the empires. And ultimately, actually, we see that God is victorious. And I think that's what Peter said 2 days ago with a video of 2 Thessalonians. Now, let's go to chapter 1, and we see how Daniel and the companions his companions, which actually they're amazing guys there, but they've got Jewish names and they're being given now Persian names. So Daniel is being given the name Belshazzar, then Hananiah, has been given a new name, as is Shadrach. Mishael has been given a new name, and he's Meshach. And Azariah has been given a new Babylonian name, Abednego. They stand before the king, and they ask to be excused. They ask that they refrain from eating from the banquet of the king. They refrain from eating from the food that was provided there from the Babylonian king. And actually, we do not know the reasons why they want to do this. Is it because they knew that the food was prepared in pagan temples? Or was it because they wanted to identify with their fellow citizens in exile who were living in very poor and devastating conditions? But one thing that we know is that they are being trained. They refrain from foods, they're being trained, and after this 3 years of training, although they were living just on vegetables, these 4 young men are the fittest in the whole of the kingdom. They have entered the king's service, and not only that they are fit, but they're wise. And their wisdom is not just gathering the philosophical and the proverbial kind of ideologies that came as a result of being in courts, that they pursued wisdom and literature in those manners. But we see, especially with Daniel, that the wisdom came directly from the living God, from Yahweh. And God has given him and has equipped Daniel with a particular gifting to understand visions and dreams. And we're going to see something about that as we read chapter 2 and onwards tomorrow.